missed call. Let's say for some reason you were not able to attend the call live, or the seller called for like 2 seconds and then something came up, they hung up the call. And so there's going to be two things that are going to happen. You get a missed call, either they're going to leave a voicemail or they're not going to leave a voicemail. If they do not leave a voicemail, you have no name and no address, assuming you don't have that phone number linked with another phone number in list stacking. So I'm not going into that, but let's say they leave a voicemail. They did not leave a voicemail at this point. You have no name, no address. You just have their phone number. So the first thing you want to do is you want to call back the seller. Are you able to contact the seller? No. Then you set up a situational drip on them. So let's say you get a missed call, you call back the seller, but you're not able to get in touch with them at that point. You're setting up a drip campaign. Either you have no name, no address. You only have their name available based on, based on public records. You have address available because the phone number matched with another phone number in list stacking, or you have both name and address available based on the phone number that you had, and then you were able to match it with another record in list stacking. So based on the situation that you have, information that you have, you're going to set up a drip campaign. And again, the drip campaign, a lot of these are already built into your account. I would just set it up. The whole goal is when you initially get the call from the seller, whether you miss a call or you attend the call live, that is their highest motivation. So you want to make sure you're trying to convert that lead into a deal, or take it to the next stage in your sales process. So when you get a call from a seller, at that point, what I would do is the drip campaign, the way they built out, the default ones are built out, the first week or 2 weeks, you're reaching out to the seller more frequently. You might send a message as soon as you set up the drip within 5 minutes, and it'll send out another message, 2 messages the next day, then maybe wait a day, send another message. So you'll do that for like a couple of weeks, then it'll start doing a message once a week. Do that for a couple of weeks and it'll start doing, every other week. So when you're initially getting a call, you want to make sure you're reaching the way your drip campaign is set up, you have, higher frequency of reaching to the lead for the first week or at least couple of weeks. Then you can do every week, every other week, and then go on to every other month or every month. The goal is to just, bring the lead back to the point where you just bring them back and then start qualifying the lead. So this is in case if you miss the call and you don't have any, or depending on, how much information you have, you're putting them on a drip campaign, making sure you're automating the follow-up. See a couple of questions. Sharice had the question, where do you move DNC, wrong number, wrong address, and already sold leads? Do you add them to dead? Yes, we definitely add them. We do not delete them. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. So the question was, where do you move the DNC? So do not contact, wrong numbers, wrong address, already sold leads. The question is, do you move them to a dead lead or do you delete them? We do not delete any lead. We move everything to dead lead. The reason being because we have all our prospects in list stacking. So if we move a property, delete them, then we have no way of knowing in our list stacking that we should not be contacting that property. So in list stacking, when we're contacting them, we're contacting them based on whether this property is a lead or not, especially if somebody is a dead lead, we're not contacting them. So you want to move them over to dead lead so it synchronizes with it syncs up with your list stacking, and it, so you're not marking them. Okay. Hey, Philip. Yeah, so if you want to unmute yourself, Philip has a question about dead leads and disposition.
Yeah, sure.
Philip,
I appreciate
Arthur,
that. Yeah, can you guys hear me okay? Awesome. Hey, yes. So one thing I noticed within marking something as dead, of course, it gives us the list to mark it while we're marking it as dead. Now, say we want to, typically we're putting those dead leads on a drip until they basically say either stop calling me or the property's sold.
Right.
I've noticed there's no way to update that disposition with a dead lead. So say they're just not interested in selling. 6 months later, we've got them on a drip and they're like, hey, the property's sold, and we verify that. There's no way to update that record, or is there, that I'm just missing?
Oh, you mean in the dead lead, the reason for the dead lead?
Correct. So that way we're kind of cleaning up our dead leads list as well and keeping track of that, where we can just pull those ones that have already sold out of our drip and focus on some newer ones.
Yeah, I'll check with my developer on that and see how you would do that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the way the process in our business is, we're not moving anything to a dead lead. So if they're on a drip campaign, we're moving them to a warm lead. Basically, the idea being like we're trying to warm up that lead. And then if they're not interested, like you mentioned, if they say, hey, don't call me again with the property, at that point, we move them to dead lead. But I see how you're using it. I'll check with my developer on that, on how you can do that. But if there's an easier way, but you could always just move it to warm lead and then move it back to dead lead. I know it's like one extra step, and then I'll reset the dead lead reason. I'll ask you again for that. But I'll find out from my developer if there's an easier way to update that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Yep. All right. All right, cool. Great questions, guys. All right, so the next step is, let's say if you get a missed call, we covered over if they did not leave a voicemail. The other part is that they actually left a voicemail. So with that, there's going to be two things that are happening if they left a voicemail. Either they are not interested. If they're not interested, again, we're moving it to dead lead. You may want to put them on a drip campaign. So if you have a voicemail from someone saying, hey, I received a postcard from you, please take my property 123 Main Street off your marketing list. At that point, we just take them off our marketing list. We just move them to dead lead, and we're not marketing to them again. Or another would be if they leave a voicemail saying, hey, we received your postcard, want to talk to you about our property 123 Main Street. Depending on how much information they left, either they're going to just leave a voicemail. A lot of times when you send a postcard to someone, they think they're the only person you've sent the postcard to. So they're going to call back and say, hey, received your postcard, interested in selling my property, give me a call, but you have no idea, you have no name, no address available. Or they may say, hey, my name is John, received your postcard, interested in selling my property. Or they may just leave the voicemail with the address, or they may leave the voicemail with both the name and the address. A good thing to do is, when you have a voicemail set up, I would set up the voicemail saying, hey, this is Sharat from ABC House Buyers. Please make sure you leave your name and address of the property that you're calling about, so we can reach back to you. So this way you're, leaving, like guiding the seller to leave as much information as you can. All right, so let's say they leave a voicemail. Depending on how much information you have, again, you're calling back the seller at that point with the goal of contacting the seller. If you're not able to contact the seller, depending on how much information you have, again, you're setting up the situational drip campaign, depending on how much information you have. So again, the goal is to get them to contact. The drip would be, want to get in touch with you, just you're trying to find more information and then see if you can qualify the lead at that point. Let's say you're able to get in touch with them, you call them back, you're able to get in touch with them. At that point, you're qualifying the lead. Is it a qualified lead? Again, going back to this situation that we talked about here, it's the same process. Right here, you're trying to qualify the lead. And if they say, hey, I have a $200,000 house ready to sell right now, but I want $250,000, it's not a qualified lead. You move them to dead lead at that point. And let's say if it ends up being a qualified lead, they're ready to sell, in the next 2 months, 3 months, and it qualifies the price that they're asking for the neighborhood that the property is in. The next thing that you're trying to do is book an appointment. At least that's what we're doing in our business. We're trying to book an appointment. You may just want to make an offer at that point. So your process may be a little bit different. We're trying to book an appointment. If we book an appointment, we move them to appointments in REsimpli, and then just work through that process. When our acquisition manager goes out, then we have our contractors go out. Because again, we're buying all the properties. We're closing on all these properties, and some of them we're doing $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 rehab. So we want to make sure our contractors are looking at them. And then if you're not able to book an appointment, you'll notice it's the same workflow that I had right here with the intention of booking the appointment. So once you make contact, trying to figure out, is the seller, they're still interested in selling their property? If not, then you put them on a long-term drip. If they still are, but they're not responsive, then you put them on seller not available or seller MIA drip campaign. And if they are interested in selling their property, they're responsive, but you haven't been able to book an appointment at that point, just for this, you're not been able to connect with you're not able to nail down a time, then you just have a drip campaign set up to go to the point of where you're booking an appointment with them.